could we ever see Skaven in the Warhammer 40,000 universe? And if so, how would it work? Or I suppose you could say not necessarily Skaven, but, you know, like a similar thing like Rat Men or whatnot. Which I
said
which
that
I
before,
thought was quite a cool question. And there's a couple of people over there that have been asking similar things. So I thought, what better time than to bring it in on this episode when we're talking about Skaven Stormcast anyway. Could we ever possibly see them within the 40k universe? I've got my thoughts on it, but guys, any thoughts? Who would like to kind of kick us off with
I will if you want.
Whatnot? Yeah, go on, Si.
Well, I think Rat Men in Space Skaven, or whatever you want to call them, I think back in the days of Rogue Trader and second edition, you could definitely just drop them right in there. No one would have said a thing, because you had Space Hawks with caps on and sunglasses. You had the squats riding around with sunglasses on, and as Ben pointed out in one of his videos the other day, there was even Space Marines with shades on.
That was half Eldar Space Marines.
Correct, a half Eldar Space Marine librarian. The law was very fluid back in the day, so you could have just put them straight in, and no one would have batted an eyelid. They'd just been like, "Yay, space rats, we're in." Now I think if they were going to do it, there'd have to be some sort of law reason why they'd do it. You know, something that the people who have a lawgasm over would accept without question. So you need a good way of doing it. So we were joking today, weren't we? Like with the Sigmar teaser, could it be like Sigmar?
Say that again, mate. Sorry.
We're only joking, but
so
if you were going to bring the Ratman into space, could it be like you could use the HUD, like Ben's just said? You know, and Game Workshop could just say, "Oh, what are you on about? That's how you pronounce HUD in Low Gothic. It's rat." So you could bring them in that way, but I don't know how they'd fit them in, how they'd chew on them in. But I have seen some amazing Leagues of Votann conversions with Skaven bits. Somebody's put like Ratman heads on the Leagues of Votann stuff and on the Gene Stealer cults stuff as well. There's some amazing conversions. So if they don't ever bring it in, you've always got that option. You could just have mutants on a Imperial mining world somewhere, get your Gene Stealer cult, stick rat bits on.
That's kind of the lore route I was going to go down. Is you could maybe go with like the Necromunda route, which ironically today we did actually have a miniature drops today. You could easily in the underhives of worlds have mutated rat men,
rodents of unusual size.
Yeah, and you have some cult that rises up. They call themselves rat men, and you've got yourself. You've said, haven't
they plan to travel to the other hives in that Palatine sector. So the Hive Secundus and whatever the other one's called nearby, I can't remember from the map. But they could open one of these hives, and there's been like some sort of crazy mutation.
Rats!
And everyone's a rat. Yeah. So you could do it with Necromunda very, very easily. I think that would be the way I would do it.
Any thoughts on that, Tom? Any raise?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really spooky that, you know, we've seen this recent Necromunda release, and if that wasn't a clue that rats are on the mind of the Warhammer design team right now, I don't know what it is. They definitely thought, well, let's just plug it in here as well. But yeah, I think with Necromunda, if there was a kind of a cult, because the thing is, I'm thinking about is technically, unless I'm horrendously wrong, you know, you could possibly have some element of the Horned Rat as a deity in 40k because of the crossover between the Chaos Gods and how they work. Although I think there's a more harder barrier in the lore than there used to be back in the day. But you know, theoretically, if someone kind of created a cult of the rat or whatever you want to call it, that would have an effect in the warp, and then you'd have possibly sort of demonic entities formed from that. So yeah, I think on a smaller scale, I guess that's kind of what Simon was alluding to as well, is that if you kind of experiment with it, then theoretically you could build up from it. But I think as a fully formed faction, I think I'd rather just see new warp spiders, if I'm honest, first and foremost.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what? Something that actually just came to me when you said that. You could, because obviously the god would kind of be almost like akin to like mutations and things. Obviously, Nurgle does kind of verge into that a bit. What if you sort of had a follower of Nurgle that kind of gets to the sort of beyond levels where he's challenging Nurgle himself, that sort of thing? You've had it with like, is it Be'lakor with Khorne and things? He's even been over to sort of Skarbrand, sorry, not Be'lakor. You could have something similar with Nurgle, but then he becomes so powerful that maybe he becomes his own kind of side god. Maybe not as powerful as the 4 Chaos Gods that we have, but like, you know, and they maybe look down at him, like in fantasy, how they look down on the Horn Rat. you could have
it
something
could
maybe
be what
similar.
Vashdor's been doing all this time, working on bringing rats.
Yeah, exactly. Ben, any other thoughts there on it?
I think you could definitely fit it in lore. I mean, the benefit that the 40k universe has is it's big. The thing about space is, you see, it's big. And I mean, for example, they're easily able to bring the Votan back in by just going, hey, you know, all these squats, it turns out, have been hiding out near the galactic core where, you know, nobody had bothered going because the gravity's weird there. It turns out that's where they've been all this time. But likewise, there's whole swathes of the 40k galaxy that is just essentially marked "Here be dragons." I mean, the Ghoul Stars, for example, we know nothing about it aside from nobody goes there, because anybody who goes there does not come back. And there's big chunks of the galaxy that they just, in that respect, could have a whole
Rangdan as well. Nobody knows what they are.
No, exactly. So there's eminently plenty of space within the 40k lore to fit them in. My only question would be is what role would they play in 40k as an army that isn't already filled by one of the others? Because if you want crazy tech stuff, you've got Mechanicus and Orcs, to be honest. At both ends of the scale, you've got kind of the wacky inventions for the Orcs and the over-the-top steampunky madness stuff with Mechanicus, which could equally be done by the Dark Mechanicus.
Because I imagine it would be more along
and
the
again,
lines
and
of
they
like
fill that Horde
Doomsday
mechanic as well, don't they? The Orcs and the Tyranids fill the Horde element of gameplay.
And if you want kind of ragged hordes, you've got, as Luke just said, Gene Stealer cults as well. So I don't know what kind of gaming need they would fill, aside from us going, oh, hey, look, it's Skaven in space. If they could figure out something that made them, I mean, like Votan have that really cool kind of grudge mechanic and stuff, which is thematic and also is entirely different to anything any other army had. If they could come up with something like that for Space Skaven, brilliant, let's bring them on, let's have rats in space. But until then, I don't know that it's needed beyond, like you guys said, the Necromunda kind of level with presumably some kind of updated version of the rat skin kind of warbands that are perhaps more kind of appropriate.
Because
just
one thing,
say kill team.
Yeah, kill team. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's how I think you'd probably see it at first. If they did it, it would be a Necromunda gang or kill team, and then it would. You know, people would want more, and it would go into a full force or something, maybe.
Well, that's where the squats came back first, was Necromunda, before they came back in the wider 40k universe.
Yep. And I was going to quickly mention, before we go on to the second question, has anybody ever seen the Veer Min faction, who are part of the Mantic Games Firefight? So Mantic Games, obviously, they have a lot of the original rules designers who left kind of Games Workshop, went over to do Firefight. And their universe obviously very akin to Warhammer, but they do have a rat men faction in their kind of sci-fi universe, and they're called Veer Min, and they are effectively Skaven, but they're in like bright yellow, like kind of carapace armor, and they are sort of like
they look very industrial, don't they?
Yeah. Almost actually kind of Gene Stealer cult armor, that kind of look to them, and that's how I'd kind of probably picture them, to be honest, but would be interesting to see. But yeah, let us know in the comments, guys, what you think. How could we see the Skaven or Rat Men appear in the 40k universe? How and why would we want to do that? But yeah,
thanks for watching this clip. Please do like, comment and subscribe to Morehammer here, and check out the full weekly Warhammer podcast that this clip came from right here. And as always, happy wargaming.